The cathedral doors of Holy Trinity Church in Accra, Ghana exploded open with a crash that silenced 250 wedding guests. Kwame Mensah, 34, stood in the doorway, his cream-colored shirt torn and stained with blood, gripping a brown envelope that would shatter everything his father believed about second chances. "Stop this wedding." His voice thundered through the ornate church. "Grace is not who you think she is, Papa." The bride, Grace Amoa, 36, froze at the altar in her elegant white gown, her dark eyes wide with terror. She gripped the arm of Kwame's father, Kofi Mensah, a distinguished 65-year-old telecommunications mogul whose company had made him one of Ghana's wealthiest men. "Kwame, what is the meaning of this?" Kofi's deep voice boomed across the cathedral. The congregation stirred uneasily, wedding programs rustling like autumn leaves. Pastor Ofori raised his hand, trying to maintain order. "She's been stealing from you, Papa." Kwame stumbled forward, his breathing labored. "For months. And that's not even the worst part. Grace had swept into Kofi's life 3 years after his wife's death. She'd been the perfect companion, attentive, caring, devoted to his grandchildren. The entire Mensah family had welcomed her, especially after she'd helped nurse Kofi through his stroke recovery 8 months ago. "You're having a breakdown, my son," Grace said softly, her voice carrying the perfect blend of concern and hurt. "The stress of losing your architectural firm, the drinking—" "Don't you dare!" Kwame's voice cracked. "I saw you, Grace. I saw you with him." The wedding guests leaned forward. Kofi's sister, Amma, gasped from the front row. The domestic betrayal was unfolding before 250 witnesses, and the tension was suffocating. Kwame pulled out his phone, his hand shaking. "Papa, she's been meeting with Uncle Yaw, your business partner, your best friend." The name hit Kofi like a physical blow. Yaw Osei had been his business partner for 25 years, the godfather to Kwame's children, the man who'd stood by him when his wife died of malaria 4 years ago. "That's enough." Grace's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating. "Security. This man is clearly unwell." But Kwame was already moving toward the altar, pulling photographs from the envelope. "I followed you to the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel yesterday. Grace, room 847. You want to explain these to Papa?" He threw the photographs at her feet. Even from a distance, the wedding guests could see they showed a woman who looked remarkably like Grace in an intimate embrace with a man. Kofi bent down, his face draining of color as he examined the images. His hands began to tremble. "Papa," Kwame said, his voice breaking, "there's more. The money from your accounts. She's been transferring it to offshore companies that Uncle Yaw controls." Grace stepped back, her veil catching on the altar's flowers. "Kofi, please don't listen to him. He's been drinking, gambling. He needs help." But Kofi was staring at the photographs, his breathing becoming shallow, the same breathing pattern that had preceded his stroke. "Papa, are you—" Kwame started forward. "How much?" Kofi's voice was barely a whisper. 47 million, Sadie, so far," Kwame said. "But, Papa, that's not—" Kofi stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving Grace's face. "Yaw!" Grace stammered. "I can explain." "Yaw!" Kofi's roar shook the cathedral windows. From the back of the church, a commotion erupted. Yaw Osei, a heavy-set man in an expensive agbada, was pushing through the crowd trying to reach the exit. "Stop him," Kofi commanded. But as he reached the door, he turned back with a smile that chilled everyone present. "Too late, old friend. The money's already gone. And so am I." Grace suddenly bolted toward the side door, her wedding dress billowing behind her. But Kwame had anticipated this. He grabbed her arm. "Let me go," she hissed. And for the first time, her carefully constructed facade completely crumbled. "You have no idea what you've done." "Call the police," Kofi said quietly to his sister. Then louder, "Call the police now." As Alma fumbled for a phone, Grace laughed, a sound that made everyone's skin crawl. "You think this is over?" she said, looking directly at Kwame. "You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming for your family. What would you do in Kwame's situation? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for next chapter where the real nightmare begins. hit that notification bell. The side door burst open, and 3 men in dark suits entered the cathedral. Kwame recognized them immediately. They worked for y'all's private security firm, the same company that handled enforcement for some of Accra's most dangerous business deals. "Nobody move," said the tallest one, his hand resting meaningfully on his jacket. "This is family business now." Kofi stepped protectively in front of his son. Despite being in his 60s, the older man still carried himself with the authority of someone who'd built a telecommunications empire from nothing. "Amma," he called his sister, "take the children outside." But 9-year-old Akojua, Kwame's daughter, was already crying in the front row. "Daddy, what's happening?" The emotional manipulation was working exactly as Grace had planned. Even now, in the midst of her exposed betrayal, she was using the children's fear as a weapon. "This could all be so simple," Grace said, straightening her wedding veil with trembling hands. "Sign the papers, Kofi. Transfer the remaining assets, and everyone walks away safely." "You planned this?" Kofi said, the realization hitting him like a thunderbolt. The stroke, the recovery, getting close to my grandchildren, all of it. Grace smiled, and it was the coldest thing anyone in that cathedral had ever seen. "I needed you weak, dependent, and you were so grateful for my care, so eager to give me access to everything." Kwame pulled out his phone again. "Papa, there's something else. Something I didn't tell you yet." "Not now, son." "No, Papa. Now." Kwame's voice was urgent. "Show her the video, Kweku," from the back of the church. Kwame's younger brother, Kweku, stood up holding a tablet. The video began playing, and even from a distance, everyone could see it showed Grace and y'all in what appeared to be Kofi's own living room. "You've been recording in my house?" Kofi's voice was dangerously quiet. "Only for the past week," Kwame said, "after I started suspecting." "Papa, listen to what they're saying." On the video, Grace's voice was clear. "Once the wedding is over and I have legal rights to everything, we can eliminate the old man, make it look like another stroke." The cathedral went completely silent, except for the sound of Kofi's labored breathing. "You were going to kill me," he said. "Still might." One of y'all's men said, stepping closer. But Kwame had been planning for this moment. As the man reached for his weapon, the cathedral's back doors opened again. This time it was Chief Inspector J of the Ghana Police Service, followed by 8 armed officers, everyone on the ground. "Now!" The security men hesitated, caught between their orders and the reality of facing actual law enforcement. "You called the police before the wedding?" Grace accused, staring at Kwame with pure hatred. "I called them the moment I found out what you were really doing," Kwame replied. "But not just about the money. Grace, tell Papa about the other family." Kofi looked confused. "What other family?" Chief Inspector J was handcuffing y'all's men, but she paused to listen. "She's married," Kwame said. "Has been for 14 years. Her husband lives in London with their 4 children. She's been sending him money, Papa's money, for their school fees, their mortgage, their entire life." Grace's face went ashen. "That's impossible. You couldn't have." "Found your phone." Kwame finished. "Grace, you left it charging in Papa's study yesterday. Did you know it automatically backs up to the cloud? Including all your WhatsApp messages with my beloved husband, Nana." The wedding guests gasped collectively. Bigamy was not just a betrayal. It was a serious crime. "Mrs. Amoa," Chief Inspector J said, "or should I say Mrs. Boateng, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and bigamy." As the handcuffs clicked around Grace's wrists, she looked directly at Kofi. "This isn't over. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Is that a threat?" the chief inspector asked. "It's a promise," Grace hissed. Kofi was now sitting in the front pew, his face gray with shock and exertion. Kwame knelt beside him, checking his pulse. "Papa, we need to get you to the hospital." "No," Kofi said firmly. "First, I want to know everything. How long have you known?" "For weeks," Kwame admitted. "I hired a private investigator after I saw her sneaking out one night. But Papa, I had to be sure." "You weren't wrong," Chief Inspector J interrupted. "We've been tracking this operation for months. Grace, and you have done this before. 4 times, actually. Always wealthy widowers. Always the same pattern. The realization hit everyone simultaneously. Kofi wasn't just a victim. He was the latest target in a sophisticated long-term con. The other men? Kofi asked quietly. What happened to them? Chief Inspector Jay's silence was answer enough. As Grace was led away, she turned back one final time. Kwame, check your children's school. Check carefully. The threat hung in the air like poison, and Kwame felt his blood run cold. The plot thickens. What do you think Grace meant by that threat? Comment your theories below. Smash the like button and subscribe for next chapter, where Kwame's worst nightmare comes true. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. The next morning, Kwame sat in his car outside his daughter's school, Ridge International Academy, in East Legon. His hands gripped the steering wheel, so tightly his knuckles had gone white. Grace's parting words echoed in his mind. Check your children's school. Check carefully. His phone buzzed with a text from his ex-wife. Abina, Akojua didn't come home yesterday. Where is she? Ice flooded Kwame's veins. He'd been so focused on stopping the wedding, so consumed with exposing Grace's betrayal, that he'd lost track of his own daughter. He ran into the school, his heart pounding. The receptionist, Mrs. Oforwe, looked up with concern. Mr. Mensah, is everything all right? My daughter, Akojua, is she here? Oh, she left early yesterday with her aunt, around noon. She said it was a family emergency. What aunt? Kwame's voice was barely controlled. I don't have a sister. Mrs. Oforwe's face went pale. The woman, she knew Akojua's full name, her class, everything. She had identification. She said you'd sent her because of the wedding situation. Kwame was already calling Chief Inspector Jay, his hands shaking as he dialed. They took my daughter, he said the moment she answered. Grace's people took my 9-year-old daughter. Where are you? The school. They took her 26 hours ago, and I didn't even know. Stay there. Don't move. Don't call anyone else. But Kwame was already running to his car. He had to tell Abina, had to tell his father, had to do something other than stand there helplessly. His phone rang. Unknown number. Daddy? Akojua's small voice made him nearly crash the car. Baby, where are you? Are you hurt? I'm okay, Daddy. The lady says she's taking care of me. She says you did something bad to her, and now she has to keep me safe. Akojua, listen to me very carefully. What do you see around you? Any signs? Any buildings? We're in a big house. There's a pool, and I can see the lagoon from the window. Waterfront property. That narrowed it down to exclusive neighborhoods. Cantonments, airport residential area, or one of the high-end areas along the Sakamono Lagoon. The lady wants to talk to you now, Daddy. A different voice came on the line. Not Grace. Someone else entirely. Mr. Mensah. My name is Mrs. Efuadarko. I'm Grace's sister. Where is my daughter? Safe for now, but that depends entirely on your next action. Kwame pulled over, his hands shaking too badly to drive safely. What do you want? First, you're going to call Chief Inspector Jay and tell her you made a mistake, that you misunderstood what you saw, that you were drunk and jealous, and you fabricated the evidence. I have video proof, which can be explained as deepfake technology. Very convincing these days. The sophistication of their operation was becoming clearer. This wasn't just a simple con. It was a network with backup plans and contingencies. Second, Efua continued, your father is going to transfer 80 million Sadies to the account I'm about to text you. Consider compensation for the emotional distress and public embarrassment. And if we refuse, your daughter is 9 years old, Mr. Mensah. She trusts easily. She's eaten the food I've given her, drunk the juice. Children are so vulnerable to accidents. The threat was unmistakable. Kwame felt bile rise in his throat. You're talking about poisoning a child. I'm talking about protecting my family. Your actions yesterday cost my sister her freedom and her future. Now you'll pay the price. Kwame's phone buzzed with another call. Chief Inspector Jay. I have to go, Efua said. You have 2 hours to decide. Oh, and Mr. Mensah, if you involve the police further, If you try to trace this call, if you do anything other than exactly what I've told you, well, 9-year-old girls have such terrible accidents sometimes." The line went dead. Chief Inspector Ajay's call was still coming through. Kwame answered, his voice hollow. "They have my daughter." "I know. We're tracking the call. Don't do anything. They want 80 million Sadies, and for me to recant everything." "Kwame, listen to me. We've dealt with this organization before. They're professionals, but they're also predictable. Give us time." "Time?" Kwame's voice cracked. "They're talking about poisoning my 9-year-old daughter, which is exactly why you need to let us handle this. The moment you give them what they want, a kosher becomes a liability. They can't let her go knowing what she's seen." The horrible truth of that statement hit Kwame like a physical blow. Whether he complied or not, his daughter was in mortal danger. "There's something else," Chief Inspector Jay continued. "We searched Grace's apartment this morning. We found detailed surveillance photos of your entire family, your daughter's school schedule, your ex-wife's work routine, your father's medical appointments. They've been planning this for months." Kwame closed his eyes, the weight of his failure crushing him. He'd been so focused on protecting his father that he'd exposed his daughter to something far worse. "Sir," Chief Inspector Jay's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you still there?" "I have to call my father," Kwame said. "I have to tell him what I've done." "Kwame, don't." But he was already hanging up, already dialing Kofi's number, already preparing to confess that his heroic gesture had cost him everything. The phone rang once before a familiar voice answered. "Papa?" "No, son. It's me." It was Yaw. "No way. Uncle Ya's Papa." What happens next? Drop your predictions in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe now for next chapter. You won't believe what happens next. Share this with someone who loves intense drama. Uncle Yaw. Kwame's blood turned to ice. "Where's my father?" Resting comfortably, Yaw's voice was calm, almost paternal. The poor man had quite a shock yesterday. His blood pressure spiked dangerously high after your dramatic performance. What have you done to him? "Me? Nothing. I'm simply here being a concerned friend, helping to nurse him back to health, just like Grace did during his stroke recovery. We're very good at caring for vulnerable people." Kwame was already racing toward his father's mansion in Trisaco Valley, but traffic on the Spintex Road was at a standstill. The irony wasn't lost on him. In trying to save his father, he was trapped in Accra's notorious gridlock, while both his daughter and father were in mortal danger. "Let me guess," Yaw continued conversationally. "Efua has contacted you about your daughter. Lovely child, by the way. She has your eyes. If you hurt either of them, you'll..." "What? Call the police?" "They're already involved, and look how well that's working out for you." Kwame's phone buzzed with another call. Chief Inspector Jay again. He ignored it. "Here's what's going to happen," Yah said. "Your father's going to wake up from his medicated rest, and he's going to discover that in his confused state last night, he signed some papers, transferred documents, very generous gifts to his dear friend Yaw and his beloved bride-to-be, Grace. Those signatures won't hold up in court, won't they? Your father has been under tremendous stress. Recent stroke, the death of his wife, the emotional turmoil of yesterday's events. People might say he wasn't thinking clearly, especially if he were to have another medical episode before he could contest anything. The threat was crystal clear. They were going to kill his father and make it look natural. The beauty of our operation, Yaw continued, is that we always have leverage. Your daughter ensures your cooperation. Your father's medical condition provides plausible cover. And your public accusation yesterday actually helps us. If something happens to Kofi now, who's going to believe the son who disrupted his wedding with wild accusations? Kwame finally broke free of traffic and floored the accelerator. "What do you want?" "Simple. You're going to call a press conference this afternoon. You're going to confess that you fabricated everything because you were jealous of your father's happiness. You'll blame alcohol, stress, whatever. The important thing is that you publicly clear Grace's name. And then your father signs over the assets voluntarily to make amends for your behavior. Grace is released due to lack of evidence, and everyone goes on with their lives. You're forgetting one thing, Uncle Yaw. I recorded that video of you and Grace planning to kill my father. Y'all laughed, a sound that made Kwame's skin crawl. Recorded where? On the security system that I helped your father install 4 years ago. The one I have remote access to. Kwame's stomach dropped. Of course. Yo had been involved in every aspect of his father's life for 25 years. I've already deleted all the footage from yesterday morning. Yaw continued. Amazing how technology can malfunction at just the right moment. Pulling into his father's compound, Kwame saw Yaw's Mercedes in the driveway along with 2 other cars he didn't recognize. The security guard, old Mr. Bokai, was nowhere to be seen. I'm here, Kwame said. I know. Walk in slowly, hands visible. And remember, your daughter's life depends on your next actions. Kwame entered his childhood home to find it transformed into something sinister. The living room where he'd learned to walk, where his mother had told him bedtime stories, where his father had taught him about business and integrity, was now occupied by strangers. His father sat in his favorite armchair, but something was wrong. Kofi's eyes were unfocused, his movements sluggish. Papa? Kwame approached carefully. Ah, my son. Kofi's words were slurred. He has been explaining how I misunderstood yesterday. He's been medicated, Yah said casually, standing behind the chair like a guardian angel. For his blood pressure. Makes thinking difficult, but it keeps him calm. 2 men flanked the entrance to the room. Kwame recognized the type, professional enforcers. Sit down, Kwame. We have a lot to discuss. As Kwame sat across from his drugged father, his phone buzzed with a text message. A photo of a Kojua, still safe but clearly frightened, holding today's newspaper. Another text, 2 hours remaining. The press conference is already arranged. Joy FM, 3 p.m. You've thought of everything, Kwame said. 25 years of planning, Yaw agreed. Your father was always the prize, but we had to wait for the right moment. His wife's death, his medical vulnerability, his isolation after stepping back from the company. All perfect timing. And if I do what you want, if I destroy my own credibility publicly, then Grace will be released. Your father will recover from his medical episode with mild memory loss, and your daughter will be returned safely. The money will be gone, of course, but everyone will be alive. And if I refuse, you'll walk to the window overlooking the compound swimming pool. Your father's doctor is already concerned about his erratic behavior since yesterday. Another stroke wouldn't surprise anyone. And 9-year-old girls, well, they're curious creatures. Sometimes they wander too close to water. The specificity of the threat made Kwame's hands clench into fists. There's one other option, Yah said, turning back with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. You could join us. What? You're unemployed, divorced, struggling financially. We could use someone with your dramatic flair. Help us identify other wealthy widowers. Use your father's business connections. There's a lot of money to be made in this business. The offer hung in the air like poison. Become complicit in his father's destruction to save his daughter's life. Kwame looked at his father, still slumped in the chair, and made his decision. I need to make a call first. No calls. No tricks. To my ex-wife, to tell her I'll be late picking up my son from school. If I don't call, she'll come looking for me. Y'all considered this, then nodded. Speakerphone. Nothing clever. Kwame dialed, his heart pounding. When Abina answered, he said carefully, Hi, it's me. I'm running late because of Uncle Yaw's visit. Can you pick up both kids from school today? Both kids. But Abina knew a Koja was missing. Of course. Abina said, catching on immediately. Should I take them to your sister's house like we planned? Kwame didn't have a sister, but he understood. Yes, she's expecting them. He hung up, hoping Chief Inspector J was monitoring his ex-wife's calls, hoping the coded message would work. Good boy, Yah said. Now, let's discuss your press conference. But as they spoke, Kwame noticed something. His father's eyes had cleared slightly, and he was looking directly at his son with an expression of complete awareness. Kofi Mensah wasn't as drugged as he appeared to be. His father's finger tapped against his armchair. 3 short taps. 2 long ones. 3 short again. Morse code for SOS. He'd taught it to Kwame when he was a boy during their camping trips to Mole National Park. The old man was definitely more alert than he was pretending to be. Papa is awake. But what's the plan? This story is insane. Like this video if you're on the edge of your seat. Subscribe and hit that bell for the final chapter where everything comes to a head. Comment justice if you want them to win. Don't miss the epic conclusion. Kofi's finger continued tapping. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. The more complex pattern that Kwame recognized from their old camping codes. Ready when you are. His 65-year-old father was planning something. The press conference will be simple. Y'all was saying, pacing behind Kofi's chair. You will confess to fabricating evidence due to alcohol and jealousy over your father's remarriage. You'll apologize to Grace publicly and request that all charges be dropped. And my daughter will watch it on television from where she's staying, Kwame said carefully. If my performance is convincing, she'll be returned to me by evening. Y'all smiled. Exactly. Kwame's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your ex-wife is very smart. Tell Uncle Yaw that Chief Inspector J wants to speak with him. His heart jumped. Abina had understood the coded message and contacted the police. But he had to be careful. One wrong move and both his father and daughter would pay the price. Chief Inspector J wants to speak with you, Kwame said casually. Yaw's eyes sharpened. What? She called my ex-wife looking for me. Apparently, there are some inconsistencies in yesterday's evidence that she wants to discuss. What kind of inconsistencies? Kwame was improvising now, buying time. She said something about the timestamps on the videos not matching the metadata. Technical details I don't understand. One of y'all's men stepped forward. Boss, maybe we should. Shut up. Yaw snapped. He was thinking, recalculating. What exactly did she say? She wants to meet with both of us together to clarify some things before the press conference. This was dangerous territory. Kwame was betting that Yaw's confidence would make him willing to face a detective, especially if he thought he could manipulate the situation further. Fine, Yaw said finally, but here, in this house, and your father stays here as insurance. Kwame's phone rang. Chief Inspector J. Answer it, Yaw commanded. Speakerphone. Mr. Mensah. Detective Ajay's voice filled the room. I need to speak with you and Mr. Osei immediately. There are some developments in the case. We're at my father's house. Kwame said carefully. Mr. Osei is here as well. Good. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. As soon as she hung up, Yaw turned to his men. Get the old man upstairs. Make sure he's secure. No, Kwame said quickly. If you move him, she'll know something's wrong. Papa was supposed to be recovering here naturally, remember? Yaw hesitated, then nodded. You're right, but if you try anything... My daughter's life is on the line. I'm not going to try anything. But Kofi's tapping had changed. Now it was officers outside. Trust the plan. Chief Inspector J arrived exactly 10 minutes later, but she wasn't alone. Kwame could see at least 4 other cars in the compound through the window. Expecting more company? Yo asked suspiciously. Standard procedure for high-profile cases. Ajay said as she entered. She was a small woman in her mid-40s, but she carried herself with authority that immediately changed the atmosphere in the room. Mr. Osei, she nodded to Yaw. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Of course. Anything to help clear up this unfortunate misunderstanding. Indeed. Ajay pulled out a tablet. I wanted to show you both something interesting we discovered when we analyzed the financial records more carefully. She turned the screen toward them. Bank statements, transaction records, dates, and amounts. The thing about financial fraud, she continued, is that it always leaves a trail, especially when it's been going on for as long as this has. Yaw's confident expression flickered slightly. For instance, Ajay continued, we found that the systematic withdrawals from Mr. Mensah Sr.'s accounts began not 8 months ago, but 4 years ago, right after his wife's death. Kofi's eyes widened. Genuine surprise this time. For years, Kwame stared at the screen. But Grace only became publicly involved with our family 3 years ago. The financial manipulation began much earlier, Ajay finished. Someone with intimate knowledge of his business, his banking, his vulnerable emotional state after his wife's death. She turned to Yaw, someone he trusted implicitly. These are serious accusations, Yaw said, but his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. They are, especially when combined with what we found in your personal accounts. Matching deposits, Mr. Osei for years of them. Kwame felt the pieces clicking into place. You were stealing from Papa Long before Grace came into the picture. The wedding scam was just a final phase. A way to legitimize the theft and disappear with a large final score, Ajay continued. But you got greedy. The amounts became too large to hide. Yaw's men were getting nervous. Kwame could see it. They'd been expecting a simple intimidation scenario, not a complex criminal investigation. None of this changes anything, Yaw said, but sweat was beading on his forehead. You still have no physical evidence of... Actually, we do. Ajay smiled. Mr. Mensah Sr.'s house has been under surveillance for the past week. Audio and video surveillance, authorized by warrant due to the threats against his life. The room went completely silent. Every word spoken in this house since Tuesday has been recorded, she continued, including your confession this morning about deleting security footage, your threats against a 9-year-old child, and your admission to a 25-year conspiracy. Yaw's face went ashen. That's not possible. It's amazing what technology can do these days, Kofi said, speaking clearly for the first time all day, especially when an old man has smart friends who know how to install equipment properly. He wasn't drugged at all. He'd been pretending the entire time. You see, Kofi continued, sitting up straighter, when my son came to me 4 weeks ago with his suspicions, I didn't want to believe him, but I also couldn't ignore them. So I asked some friends in the security business to help me find out the truth. Yaw's hand moved toward his jacket, but 2 armed officers stepped through the doorway. I wouldn't, Chief Inspector Jay said calmly. My daughter, Kwame said urgently. They still have my daughter. No, they don't. Ajay held up her phone. A Kojua was recovered 30 minutes ago from a house in Sakamono. She's safe and asking for ice cream. The relief hit Kwame so hard he nearly collapsed. How did you... Your ex-wife is very clever with coded messages, and we've been tracking this organization for months. We were just waiting for them to make their final move. Yaw was staring at Kofi with pure hatred. You crafty old bastard. 25 years, Kofi said sadly. 25 years you were stealing from me, lying to me, probably planning my death since my wife got sick. And I trusted you with everything. You had too much. Yaw exploded. More money than you could ever spend, while people like me struggled. While people like you chose to steal instead of work. Kofi finished quietly. As the officers moved to arrest Yaw and his men, the man who'd been Kofi's best friend for 2 decades looked directly at Kwame. This isn't over, boy. You have no idea how deep this network runs. How many people will be very unhappy that you've interfered with their business? Is that another threat, Mr. Osei? Chief Inspector Jay asked. But Yaw was smiling as they handcuffed him. Asked him about the other families, detective. Asked him about what happens to people who cross us. For weeks later, Kwame sat in the Accra High Court watching Grace Amoa, whose real name was actually Grace Boateng, stand trial for fraud, bigamy, and conspiracy. She looked different without her wedding finery and carefully applied makeup. Smaller somehow, more ordinary. But her eyes still held that calculating coldness that had fooled his father for 3 years. The defendant systematically gained the trust of Mr. Kofi Mensah through emotional manipulation. The prosecutor was saying she exploited his grief over his wife's death, his medical vulnerabilities, and his desire for companionship to gain access to his financial assets. Kwame glanced at his father, who sat rigid in the gallery. The past 4 weeks had aged Kofi considerably. The betrayal by 2 people he'd trusted completely had shaken his faith in his own judgment. Papa, Kwame whispered, you don't have to stay for all of this. Yes, I do, Kofi replied firmly. I need to hear it all. I need to understand how I was so blind. The prosecutor continued, evidence will show that the defendant, working in conspiracy with Mr. Yaose, systematically transferred over 120 million cedis from the victim's accounts over a 4-year period. The full scope of the theft was still being uncovered. Furthermore, the prosecutor said, we have evidence that this was not an isolated incident. The defendants targeted at least 5 other wealthy widowers across West Africa using identical methods. Chief Inspector J had explained it all to them during the investigation. The network operated across Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Senegal. 5 confirmed victims, 2 of whom had died under suspicious circumstances shortly after signing over their assets. When the judge read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Grace showed no emotion, but as she was led away in handcuffs to begin her 15-year sentence, she whispered to Kwame as she passed, "You think this ends it? There are others. They won't forget what you did." You had already been sentenced to 20 years. The network was being dismantled piece by piece, but Chief Inspector J had warned them that some members had escaped to other countries. "You'll need to be careful for a while," she'd said. "These people have long memories." But standing outside the courthouse that afternoon, with his daughter holding his hand and his father beside him, Kwame felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. "Papa," Akojua said, tugging on his sleeve, "can we get ice cream now? You promised." Kwame looked at his father, and for the first time in weeks, Kofi smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Yes," Kofi said, scooping up his granddaughter. "Let's get ice cream, and then let's go home." Home, not a safe house, not a borrowed apartment. Home. The domestic betrayal that had begun with a disrupted wedding had ended with justice served. The emotional manipulation, the sophisticated fraud network, the threats, all of it had been exposed and stopped. But more importantly, they had survived, not just physically, but as a family. As they walked to the car, Kwame's phone buzzed with a message from Chief Inspector J. 3 more families have come forward after hearing about your case. Your courage to speak up saved lives. Kwame showed the message to his father. "We did the right thing," Kofi said quietly. "Even when it was dangerous. Even when it cost us everything. We did the right thing." And for Kwame, that was enough. The story that had begun with a dramatic wedding interruption had ended not with vengeance, but with justice. And sometimes, that's exactly how it should be. The end. What an incredible journey. Did Kwame make the right choice? Would you have disrupted that wedding? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Smash that like button if you love the story. Subscribe and turn on all notifications for more gripping African stories like this. Share this with someone who needs to hear about these sophisticated scams. Comment justice served if you're satisfied with how this ended.